How's it, folks? I am going to be showing off a bunch of weapons and armor that you can get during this year's Halloween event. But first, before we get started, I just want to point out that I'm not going to be showing off any of these stuff that can be bought from the Dying Light store. I do have an item that's free at the moment that you can pick up, but other than that, I'm not going to be highlighting any stuff that you have to spend money on. So starting off at Baka, there's more than 10, like I say about 14, maybe 15 headpieces. Most of them are from previous year's Halloween events. I wouldn't recommend buying any of them if your only objective is the stats, because the stats for all those headpieces are pretty crap. However, if you buy them, you can use them in the transmog system, so you can change what your gear pieces look like. So if you like the look of one of these headpieces, maybe you just want to run around with a pumpkin on your head, then go ahead and buy one of those gear pieces. Otherwise, just ignore all of those. Next is the Purifier Charm, which allows you to deal 2% extra damage the lower your health is. And this is the cost and stats of the Purifier Charm. 400 mutation samples for an extra 2% additional damage when you lower health. Then is the Monster Stabber. This is basically the exact same dagger that you can get when you're playing as the Van Aiden character in the Tower Raid. The Venom Sting dagger, I'm going to highlight it, even though it was available in the previous Halloween event. It's also got luminescent paint around the handle and the blade. Similarly, the Nightmare Claw was also in the previous Halloween event. It also does toxic damage, and it is a pretty decent knuckle duster that's quite fun to use, especially as there aren't many knuckle dusters in the game. So that might be worth aiming for. And then we get onto the mainstay of the items in Bucker's store, the Van Aiden set. Starting off with the boots at rank 8, the pants at rank 14, the gloves at 18, braces at 20, head at 25, chest at 25, and then the Shadow Executioner also at 25. The gear set itself, the stats aren't that great, although it does come with 2 guaranteed modifiers. You will notice at the one of the bottom stats is chance of ammo replenishing upon shot is plus 0.35%, and it also comes with a guaranteed 7% damage versus infected. Those 2 stats will be on every single one of these pieces of gear, and the other 3 stats will all be randomized. So if you want to have a look at what the full stat line is like, this is it. With the full set, increasing the chance of ammo replenishing upon shot by 2.1% and a bonus 42% damage versus infected. Otherwise, the rest of the stats are pretty substandard. They're pretty low down. You can get better stats from Ranger gear if you want to spec out into that. But it also comes with the Shadow Executioner crossbow. And this crossbow is a bit of a beast. It has 9 shots and it deals additional damage depending on maximum enemy HP. Basically meaning the lower the enemy's health, the more damage you are going to deal to it. So this is pretty good for finishing off enemies, especially if they're trying to run away. And it's all in all something I would actually recommend trying to aim for. It's a pretty fun crossbow to run around with. The other crossbow that you can get from this event, the Pumpkin Spice Executioner, on the other hand, is a pretty standard crossbow. Also 9 shots, semi-auto, that you get by beating the tower with the Van Aiden character. But you just bear in mind, you don't get the blueprint for this crossbow, you just get this crossbow. It also has a lower base damage compared to the Shadow Executioner. This is definitely one of the best crossbows in the current version of the game. And then you can also get the Blazing Fury SMG, which has a couple of good stats going for it. Firstly, it's got 50 bullets in the magazine as opposed to 35 from the golden SMG. On top of that, you can quite easily set oil spills a lot using this SMG, whereas with the golden SMG, you have to spray about like 20 to 30 bullets into the oil spill just to set it alight. And then the other 3 weapons you can get from the Tower Raid are the Cutpumpkin Spice Cutlass, that you have to beat the Tower Raid as the Cursed Pirate. It also glows in the dark, same as the Pumpkin Crossbow. And then there's also the Pumpkin Spice Cane, also glows in the dark, along with all the other Halloween weapons from this event. That you need to beat the Tower Raid as the Plague character. And then finally, there is the Pumpkin Spice Harvester, which also glows in the dark. Just ignore the blood on it. I was whacking some zombies with it earlier. and you need to beat the tower raid as the Scarecrow character to get this weapon. On top of that, you can also get the Monster Slayer, which has a little blurb about making it easier to decapitate enemies, cut off their heads, but doing some testing, didn't seem to do any better or worse than other two-handed swords. So that might just be some filler text rather than having any gameplay effect. This one you can buy from Baka. And then this is the free Gladius weapon that you can get from the Dynite store. Basically a replica of the swords that the Roman legionaries used to use. And the interesting bit about this weapon is that it has the moveset of the daggers, as opposed to the one-handed bladed weapons like machetes. So it does a stab as the heavy attack, and he does a little twirly-whirly thing with this Gladius, just like they do with the daggers. Otherwise, it behaves similarly as a machete with the longer reach and whatnot. Basically treat it as a dagger with much longer reach. And then if you want throwable that could stun enemies, you can pick up Pumpkinade from Baka. They don't stagger volatiles, but they do stun them very briefly for like half a second. So if they're busy chasing you, you can chuck this at them. That would stop them in their tracks, and then they carry on coming after you pretty much straight after. But it does have a hit effect for volatiles and stuns all the other smaller infected, which is quite fun to use. And then there is the Jumpstart Energy Bar, which allows you to double jump. You basically just press the jump button when you're in the air and you get a double jump. And then there's two different versions of Trick or Treat. There is the 2022 version, which has a 30-second duration. I have managed to confirm 3 effects for the 2022 version and 3 effects for the other version, and then the rest all just seem to be duds where no effect happens. Firstly, in the 2022 version, there is a sort of oily, slicky type of filter across the screen that looks like you get smeared with Vaseline. And then there is another filter that turns everything black and white. And then the third one is a firework with confetti that starts popping out as soon as you chomp on that Trick or Treat version. And then for the other version, there are 3 effects and 3 duds. Firstly, there is a camouflage style effect that's very similar to the camouflage grease you can craft, where it makes you invisible to the infected and you can attack them without being bothered. Second effect involves you being able to attack infected with melee weapons from range with a sort of red sparkle effect. And then the final effect seems to allow you to play ping pong with the infected by knocking them up in the air or painting nearby buildings with some really fresh red paint. Otherwise, the other effects have an indicator on the HUD saying something's happened, but I wasn't able to confirm any of the effects, so they seem to be duds, which kind of makes sense with the Trick or Treat candy. We just have a couple of things left to wrap up. Firstly, this is what the Paraglider looks like from an outsider's perspective, which is basically only really relevant in co-op. Next, the blazing outfit that is also part of the Twitch drop. It also glows in the dark with the 3 slash marks on the back of the shirt and the glowing eyes in the skull at the front of the shirt. And finally, let's talk about the plastic gun. It only has 14 shots in it, and you will discard it when you run out of ammo. It's plastic, bright yellow, so it doesn't really have the aesthetics looking for it unless you want to run around with a Nerf gun in the apocalypse. And it has the special effect of making heads explode if you manage to get a headshot. Otherwise, it's pretty much a low capacity gimmick weapon. I made this video with these pretty much sole purpose of helping you guys decide if the Halloween event is worth your time or if there's anything in this list that piques your interest and you want to pick up. So I hope you guys found this video informative, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. Take care and cheers for now.